Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. It's December 18th. Thanks for being with us. I'm Madeline Burke alongside the Super Bowl champion Sean O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the entire archive of this show and our entire podcast platform, or our entire podcast network, rather, on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcast. Sean, happy week 16.
Wow, week 16. That escalated quickly.
It really did. It really did.
Lots transpired.
We're in peak Elf on the Shelf season. We are, tis the season for the home stretch.
It feels like week 16. It feels like we've been doing Elf on the Shelf for 16 weeks in the O'Hara household. But yeah, basically 4 months. This is right.
Yeah.
4 months worth of football.
4 months
here
worth
we
of
are.
football.
This is always a stressful time, right? With the holidays and travel and obligations and work parties, family parties, kid parties. You got a lot going on, and then as players and coaches, you got to focus on games. You still got to bring that holiday spirit to the practice field, to the games. This is always a special time of the year for those that can celebrate and can do all that. Coach Coughlin, I'm going to quote him right here. He used to have a great saying. He said, "Thanksgiving and Christmas are great holidays. They just come at the worst time of the year."
Why?
Because it's during the season.
That's true.
Like, Christmas is a great holiday. If it came, in February when we were done with the season, it would be even better. But,
there you go.
Yeah, I've practiced on Thanksgiving Day. I've played games on Thanksgiving Day. I've played on Christmas Day. I've played on Christmas Eve. Practiced on those days. It is always tough, especially when you're going through a tough season like this. But it also does make you appreciate what you have.
That's true. And as we are exactly 1 week away from Christmas Day, 1 week away from the first night of Hanukkah, 2 weeks away from New Year's Eve. Can you believe it's going to be 2025 in 2 weeks? As a millennial, I am shooketh that we are 25 years into the new millennium.
That's wild.
That is insane.
That's a quarter
century. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, jinx.
So, yeah. But the gifts keep on giving. And for the Giants, we've got some news. That is our gift to you to start the show. Drew Lock expected to start at quarterback for the Giants on Sunday when they face the Atlanta Falcons. In Atlanta, head coach Brian Daboll said that at his press conference today. Lock, of course, sidelined last week with heel and elbow injuries. He has an elbow injury on his non-throwing arm. He had a heel injury that had him in a walking boot earlier last week. He was out of the boot before the game, but still was not healthy enough to be the backup quarterback. So he was the third quarterback last week, with Tim Boyle as the backup, as we saw in the second half.
Yeah, tough times right here. For Drew Lock, heel, anytime, you're kind of dealing with those heel and ankle injuries, it's kind of tough. You don't think of a quarterback as like, hey, he's got to run and be functional, but literally every time you take the snap and you drop back, if you've got to plant off that foot, plant off that heel, it can really make it hard to kind of set up, and your footwork is a big part of throwing the football. So tough times right now as the quarterback carousel continues. From DeVito to Boyle to Locke, now to be playing the Atlanta Falcons. Raise your hand if you had Michael Penix Jr. versus Drew Lock in the Week 16 matchup here. I don't think anybody saw that quarterback matchup coming, but the tough thing is just the continuity offensively, and I think Drew has done some good things. He's made some good plays. I think it's got to be a tough choice, obviously with DeVito being out now, because I thought Boyle was impressive with some of the throws that he made. Obviously, the touchdown throw we focused a lot on in the postgame show, the 23-yard touchdown he threw to Neighbors against that blitz zero coverage. I was impressed with Boyle's ability to get the ball out. Like, he was not going to take a sack in that moment. It was almost like he had great anticipation for what was possibly going to happen, and he had an answer. It wasn't like, hey, oh no, this guy's coming. What am I supposed to do now? And I've got to try to ad-lib and run and try to dodge this defender. It was, this ball's coming out, and that before that guy gets to me. And I think that's a big part of playing quarterback. So hopefully Drew Lock can do that. I know the biggest thing with Lock and DeVito when they went in there was they both took a bunch of sacks. And look, the ball's got to come out. Defense is going to test you. Like, look, there's been offensive line shuffling going on in front. Anytime you play a team that's got all kinds of new offensive linemen in and out, new quarterbacks in and out. We saw from Baltimore, they were running all kinds of different blitzes and sometimes it was just a 4-man blitz. It was just 3D linemen and one extra blitzer, but it was off the edge, and you're kind of testing, does this quarterback understand defenses? Can he read it? Can he protect himself? And if he can't, can he make that hot throw?
Yeah, and the way that you mentioned this too, not only was Boyle decisive, but he threw to a spot and he threw with anticipation, which is something that the other 3 quarterbacks that we've seen for the Giants this season had struggled to.
Yeah.
And how much of a difference that makes for an offense.
Yeah, getting the ball out on time, or you throw the ball before the receiver is open. That does 2 things. Number one, you avoid the sacks, you avoid the hits, so it absolutely helps the guys up front and everybody blocking. It also, like I said, it can beat the defender if they've got a blitz on and you've got an unblocked defender come bearing down on you. But the second thing is the ball gets on the receiver now as he breaks open, so he can do something after the catch. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting there waiting for the ball, or it comes late, now all of a sudden you're catching it and you're getting hit right away, or they're trying to break the ball up or break the pass up. So you don't have the opportunity to make the catch and make a move and make somebody miss. So the yards after the catch are, the trajectory of that production goes through the roof if you can get the ball there early or on time and let them make somebody miss or make a move.
Yeah. Now, speaking of quarterback news, we mentioned Michael Penix Jr. getting the start in Atlanta. This comes after several weeks of Kirk Cousins' struggles. And since week 10, Cousins had 1 passing touchdown and 9 interceptions.
Ouch.
And it was one of those things that even he said before Monday Night Football this week, he couldn't quite figure out what was going wrong, what was the issue. And the Falcons, who are very much in a playoff hunt right now, are making a change with 3 games left in the season to their rookie quarterback, who, had kind of media aghast when the Falcons drafted him number 8 overall after what they paid to Kirk Cousins. But you know what? This is a change that they feel like is important and ready to make. And it shifts a lot of things, Sean, because I think we see this often when a team changes quarterbacks. You don't really know how to scout the offense in the same way under a different quarterback. And one of the biggest differences that I don't know gets a lot of attention, but Michael Penix Jr. is left-handed.
Yeah.
So that reverses the field in a way. And so when you're preparing for a team, if you're watching film on Atlanta and you're saying, okay, this is what they do, this is their tendencies, how much changes and how much do you watch of the last several games, or do you go back and say, okay, let's watch some Penix college film, or how do you prepare for a quarterback like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, the fact that he is left-handed, because now all of a sudden when you are going to run play action passing, or if you're going to move the quarterback out of the pocket, you're going to want to roll him to his left. You're not going to want to ask him to roll out to the right and kind of throw against his body. That's a much tougher throw. So you're obviously much more aware of that. And then also, kind of slant routes. A lot of times right-handed quarterbacks really likes throwing the slant to the right, mm-hmm. because they're not throwing across their hip. If you throw it to the left, you're kind of opening up as a right-hander. So that will definitely change that aspect of it. I think Penix is a different kind of thrower as well. Yeah. Cousins is a much more like kind of over the top, that kind of delivery. Penix he's got a quick release. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's Michael Vick-like, Lamar Jackson-like, with how it just kind of seems like he just kind of flicks it, but he's got a cannon for an arm, and he can do all that without having to crow hop into it. So I think the fact that he can make all those different throws from the same kind of platform, I think that's really going to be tough to defend. The biggest challenge, obviously, defensively, like you said, you don't have film on him. You have film on the scheme, film on the offense. But as I mentioned, what teams have been doing to the Giants with the quarterback carousel is, this is a rookie quarterback. Let's see what he knows. Let's see what he sees. So if you're Shane Bowen, absolutely, in those first 5 plays, you want to sprinkle a couple little looks at him, a couple little blitzes, a weak cowboy, which is a corner blitz, mm-hmm. and you usually try to do it from the boundary side because he has less room to run or less field to cover. So you're going to sprinkle some of those in there just to see, hey, maybe we get a free shot, maybe we get a sack, force fumble. Takeaways obviously have been something that the Giants have struggled with defensively this year. They're one of bottom in the league with takeaways, so that could be an opportunity. But I think you want to find out first and foremost, what is this young quarterback seeing? And then physically, look, he can sling it. And I think you can go back and watch college film if you want. He can hit every throw at every level.
Yeah.
The short stuff, the medium stuff, the deep ball. So he has all that in his arsenal. And really, for him to get this start, you mentioned Kirk Cousins was going through a drought. I think he went like 17 quarters without throwing a touchdown. It was tough times for him. And it wasn't just that I am not throwing touchdowns. He was throwing interceptions and throwing them in the red zone, which is something that has kind of plagued Kirk Cousins his entire career. He did it in Minnesota. He did it when he was in Washington. And that's a no-no. Like, you can't do that. Like, turnovers are going to happen sometimes, but for them to frequently happen in the red zone, that just kind of lets you know that your decision-making is not off. And, obviously your accuracy is definitely not there. So this will definitely be a change, I think, for the vertical passing game in this Atlanta Falcons offense. I don't think Kirk has near the arm strength that Penix does, so this will definitely open things up. So a guy like Mooney, who's got world-class speed, now that makes him even more dangerous.
Right. And, to your point, head coach Brian Daboll was asked about Michael Penix Jr. earlier this week in the thought that might be a possibility. And he kind of echoed what you're saying, too. He's a productive player. He could throw it on all three levels, kind of threw the ball effortlessly, very athletic, smart, instinctive. I thought he was a good prospect. This is the anticipation that they have for this guy. They scouted this guy as they do with every quarterback in these draft classes, and they got to know him. And so there is some familiarity from the coaching staff. And it's now, how does that translate as you try to prepare this team and this defense for facing him? You mentioned Cousins' struggles in the red zone, too, which Giants fans are very familiar with. We have seen quite a bit of that. And whether it's from the quarterback position, the offense as a whole, the Giants seem to be able to move the ball, but not quite finish. And, we talked about this a little bit on the post-game show this week after the Ravens game, too. I mean, that's got to be so frustrating as an offense, but is there something that you can do to kind of say, okay, here's how we're going to shift the execution? Or is it just a matter of just ball?
I've always felt like the toughest thing to do when you get down in the red zone is run the ball.
Yeah.
And look, if you're struggling to run the football throughout the rest of the football field, when you get down in the red zone, it's even tougher because the safeties are closer to the line of scrimmage. The defense, everything it's like close quarters combat. So there's not a lot of space like there is out in the regular plays. But the challenge really kind of becomes a personnel thing. So if you have been running your 12 personnel or 13 personnel, which is one running back, 3 receivers, if you want to stay in that personnel to try to keep them in their sub package or their nickel package, which is 2 linebackers, and they take a linebacker off the field and bring an extra defender like corner or safety like defender. If you want to keep that and run the ball, then your receivers have to block. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the reasons why the Giants have struggled down in the red zone is they have done a lot of that. They have kept Wan'Dale Robinson out there, Darius Slayton. If I'm trying to run the ball in from the 2-yard line, I don't think I want Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton to be blocking at the point of attack.
Right.
I want Manhurst. I want Bellinger. I want, I want to get Theo in there.
Yeah, you need a big body.
Theo's hurt.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to look at, all right, who do we have available? A lot of teams bring in extra offensive linemen. Dan Skipper, right, for the Detroit Lions. Everybody remembers him from the ineligible, am I not eligible, play for the Detroit Lions. He actually caught a touchdown pass this past week, but he's a big part of their offense. Short yardage goal line, here he comes. He's coming in. That is how you run the football down in the red zone. So when you struggle from that standpoint, teams basically say, you're one-dimensional. We don't think you can run the football against us. We're going to play coverage. And that's when things kind of get tough. Nobody's going to play man against the Giants right now down in the red zone. Why would you? So they're going to bracket coverage you. And, you play man, now you are going to get that 50-50 ball. You're going to get that fade route to Malik Neighbors, or you're going to get somebody, trying to throw the ball to the back pylon with Darius Slayton and make it a track meet. But teams don't have to do that. So I think that's really the challenge for the Giants, and they have not been able to crack the Da Vinci Code this whole season. It's been really tough to see and tough to watch, and I know they're all frustrated. I know the offensive line's frustrated because you get down in the red zone, you want to run the ball, and then everybody on the offensive line does their job. The receiver doesn't dig out the safety, and now all of a sudden it's a tackle for a loss on the 2. Now you're on the 3.
Yeah, and we saw that quite a few times last week as well.
Yeah, it happens.
It's tough. It is tough indeed. They'll continue to trudge on. A couple more injury updates as head coach Brian Daboll is addressing the media or just wrap that as we speak. Of course, Drew Lock gets the nod to be good to go as the starting quarterback this week. In Atlanta, Tommy DeVito would be the backup if he clears concussion protocol. If he does not clear protocol, it'll be Tim Boyle, again, as the backup. Aaron Stinney, he started last week at left guard. He's in concussion protocol as well.
Oh, boy.
Bobby Okereke not practicing. Brian Burns, he's day-to-day with an ankle injury. He's not practicing. Patrick Johnson out this week with a knee injury. And everyone else will do something at practice today. So, the latest from the injury room, the injury update on Big Blue Kickoff Live right here.
Yeah, Aaron Stinney, that's tough. I thought he battled. I thought he played well. There was a lot of good stuff from Stinney. He's a reliable veteran. He's started a bunch of games in this league. With Runyon being on IR already, that could be tough sledding right there, because John Michael Schmitz, he's battling some stuff. Greg Van Roten, he was kind of battling an ankle last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think Azudu could be an option. He's healthy still.
Yep.
I know he's been kind of filling in at left tackle, but he was originally drafted as a guard, which is where he played down in North Carolina in college mostly. So be curious to see if he gets a shot at maybe going in there a guard. I think the one thing that is positive for the offensive line, I think Evan Neal has improved.
Yep.
He has gotten better. Is he where he needs to be? Still not yet. But in the run game, he's pushing people around. He's moving people. He's moving bodies, and that's exactly what you want from a guy like Evan Neal, and that's what you want to see, that progress. I feel like he's gotten more physical, so hopefully that will continue. But yeah, again, it's tough. Like, we've seen how many different starting combinations on the offensive line this year already.
Which is a challenge considering the fact that the first 6 weeks was the exact same starting five. And then the plot, it twisted.
Yeah, and Andrew Thomas going down, losing him for the second straight year, there's been an unbelievable domino effect from that, moving guys around, shuffling guys around, Illuminor, Hubbard, Azudu. So that's tough. And then when you couple that in with a new quarterback, well, guess what? You're going down to play in Atlanta. And they're still alive in the playoffs. That place is going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. So now you have silent count. You've got to work that all week long. You've got to make sure that that's up to par. And if anything, that actually might help you with the quarterback cadence, because now the quarterback, you don't have to get used to two different quarterback cadences on third down. It's going to be silent count.
Right.
So they don't have to say anything, but you got to get some reps in there at left guard.
Absolutely. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcast. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we head to the phone lines for the first time this afternoon. Cliff in New York. Cliff, thanks for holding. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Sean O'Hara and Madeline Burke.
Hey, guys. Thanks for the rundown. It was I just wanted to get online. Best to you guys for the holidays and the new year.
Same to you, Cliff.
You
we
bet.
appreciate you.
Yep. I was pumped yesterday for talking about Dane Belton having a chance to go against a struggling Kirk Cousins. But I'm still sticking with him as kind of a lead into where we are with the roster. Belton kind of disappeared on me after he showed that great ability in his first year in 22 to be where the ball was. His very first play was on special teams. In the NFL was a turnover by him, and I heard praise about him all year. He was there, the right place at the right time for the ball, and other times. And then I don't know what happened last year, and he was hurt. Didn't hear much about him, and this year we didn't see him, and I assume that was because Tyler Nubin came in as a second-round pick, highly regarded. That a lot of people had as a first-rounder, and Jason Pinnock was playing very well, so he just kind of got squeezed out of a lot of snaps. But I was wondering if you think he has a shot at doing something against a rookie in his first start, just as much as he would have against Cousins.
Yeah, Cliff, appreciate the call. Happy holidays to you as well. I think, look, Dane Belton took advantage of his opportunity. And you mentioned Tyler Nubin. When the Giants drafted him in the second round, there were a lot of people that felt like it was a steal. He was the best safety in the draft. The Giants plucked him. He immediately came in, and he's one of those guys that, man, on the first week of training camp, like, he was making play after play. And I think it was not Dane Belton didn't do anything wrong. I think Tyler Nubin just outplayed him and played so well that they could not play him. So now for Belton, look, Nubin's out. He got a chance to step up. And I think he led the Giants in tackles against Baltimore, which is not ideal. I don't want my safety leading my team in tackles. You want your linebackers making those tackles. But that was kind of how the game went. So I think Belton's a thumper. Look, he's always been a ball hawk. He had a bunch of picks when I think he went to Iowa.
He played the cash position right there.
Yeah, he kind of played like a hybrid role. Mm-hmm. So he would blitz sometimes. He'd be down in the box as a linebacker, and then he'd be back in coverage. So this could be a great game for him. Good opportunity for him. I think he likes to be downhill more than I think he would rather cover the run game than the passing game. But be careful what you wish for.
Right.
We talked about Derrick Henry ad nauseum last week,
but
and Bijan Robinson is a freaking stud. Like, he does not go down easy. He's already over 1,100 yards on the season. He is basically their bell cow, and I'd be shocked if he doesn't get 25 carries in this game. You're starting a rookie quarterback, and I know everybody wants to see Penix throw the ball all over the yard, and it's a new shiny toy, but you don't want to ask any rookie quarterback to come in and all of a sudden throw the ball 47 times in a game. So I think Bijan is a big part of their offense, and I expect to see him get the ball quite a bit.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned Belton against Derrick Henry too. There were a couple times where I was like impressed in real time watching the way that he wrapped up Henry. We talked about this too on the post-game show. Henry was held to just 67 rushing yards, and granted, they weren't able to stifle the entirety of the run game, but to bring down a man like that who, can stiff-arm defenders like the ragdolls on a regular basis, I thought Belton did a really good job in that situation.
Yeah, he did. He's a physical safety. Like, he plays, and when he comes down to tackle, he is tackling like a linebacker. So it's not like he's this 190-pound safety that's coming down and just ankle biting. Like, he's running through people.
Right.
And he does bring a physical presence to that. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Bijan Robinson. He leads the Falcons 1,102 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, over 1,500 scrimmage yards. He and Christian McCaffrey, the only players, Christian McCaffrey in 2023, I should say, are the only players in the last 5 seasons with 1,100 rushing yards, 400 or more receiving yards in the first 14 games of a season. So, that's pretty solid company to be in. If you think about the way Christian McCaffrey played in 2023, Bijan Robinson kind of on that level. He has been such a workhorse for this Falcons team. And then you pair him with, Drake London, who has been doing an incredible job in the passing game as well for them. The young guy teammates right there, quite the threat.
Yeah, that's a heck of a 1-2 punch. And Bijan Robinson has shown how great his hands are too. And he's one of those guys where you can't get him the ball enough. And look, you hand him the ball off because he wants to run the ball down, downhill in between the tackles, and he wants to be physical. But they throw a lot of screens to him, a lot of design throws to get in the ball in space. And now if you can get a guy like him he's a fast twitch guy, he can make a guy miss. You make one guy miss out in space, and now you've got Bijan Robinson running down the sideline, and nobody wants to tackle that guy when he's at full speed. So they've done a good job of doing that. And look, you sprinkle in Darnell Mooney, who is an extreme vertical threat. He's very fast. And Kyle Pitts, even though you would look at his production and say, look, you would think he would have more, he's a really good athlete. He's a big target. Kirk Cousins and him never really flourished. Mm-hmm. I actually thought when they signed Kirk Cousins that I'm like, Kyle Pitts is going to go off. He's going to have a great year because Cousins was always a tight end friendly quarterback. He lit it up with Hockenson in Minnesota for a couple of years, and that was always kind of his security blanket, and it never came to fruition. So, we'll see what happens. But that's, some really good athletes. Mooney, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. They've got some really good athletes, and I think that really, if you're looking at why would Atlanta make this change now, if people said, "Hey, look, we just want Penix to get the reps and do this. Means nothing."
No, because they're in the playoff hunt.
This is not
they're
like
one
scrub
game
time
behind the
here.
Bucks. Yeah,
This is not. Let's just hey, let's see what happens.
yeah,
This
we're not
is,
in exhibition mode.
We think this guy gives us a better chance to win, and not just this game, but maybe going into the playoffs too. And I think that has to come from, obviously we mentioned Kirk Cousins struggling, his poor play. But if you're watching the film and you got guys that are open and he can't get him the ball for whatever reason, and you have a guy that you're watching in practice every day, and Madeline, they're out there watching him, and when the starting quarterback's struggling, there are a lot more eyeballs on the backup quarterback to see, how's he doing?
Right.
How's he doing? And it's not so much, you know what, let's just get him out of here. The season's over with. We might as well play this guy. No, this guy's lighting it up in practice, and this guy is really struggling. You know what? Like, let's go with the hot hand. So I'd be shocked if Penix hasn't been playing really well in practice and giving them that confidence that, you know what, he can come in here and hit the ground running. I'm sure that they've got, look, there's going to be some hiccups, I'm sure, but when you have all those guys that we just talked about,
right,
and now you just need somebody to distribute the ball, I think it was probably an easy choice.
Well, and as you mentioned too, they've still got something to play for right now. One game behind the Bucks in the playoff hunt, but not just the coaching staff, the front office out there watching and saying, okay, yeah, we can see who's doing better in practice, but the players, the locker room, like there's a feel too. Like, and as a locker room, you know who the best players on the team are. You know who the person that's going to give you guys the best chance to win at each position is. And I think at some point it becomes, okay, yes, this is the plan that we had, but everyone kind of knows and will rally behind this shift because, the players on the field see it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the locker room is a huge part of it. And look, the locker room is a brotherhood, but you're also, like, nobody's going to stand up and say, hey, Kirk, like, you're killing us.
Right.
Like, you treat everybody like a pro, but as a coach, you don't want to risk losing the locker room, especially when you have a chance for the playoffs. Look, there's some guys that play in the league for 10 years and they never get to play in a playoff game. Joe Thomas, Hall of Fame tackle, never played in a single playoff game. So to have the chance for it to be right there, you owe it to your team. You owe it to your coaching staff to say, look, we've got to do everything we can to try to win this game. And if you've got a guy like Penix just kind of waiting right there, he's in the on-deck circle, ready to rock and roll, you tap him in. And I think the players respect that too.
Right.
Like, hey, coach, you know what? I know this probably wasn't easy, but you know what? We all could see what's going on, and it's not a diss on Kirk Cousins, but we got to do this for the entirety of the team in the locker room.
Right. And I think even Kirk Cousins understands too. He says, hey, as a person and as a man, he says, wow, I want to be in there. But, as a teammate, when you look at it and you can say, I genuinely cannot put this team in the best position to win right now. And with what's at stake for those Falcons.
There's a little bit of karma, like, with all that stuff. Not to go Taylor Swift on you here, but like, just kind of think about, like, if you go, let's go back. Let's turn back the hands of time. Kirk Cousins, if I'm not mistaken, was drafted in the 4th round. The same year that the Washington Redskins at the time drafted RG3.
Yeah.
And RG3 ended up getting hurt. So Kirk Cousins has been on the other side of this too, where he replaced RG3.
You like
they
that?
They were both rookies. And then there was even some competition. Like, all right, do we go back to RG3, which they did the following year. So he's been that guy waiting in the wings.
Yep.
Gets my chance to play. And then, of course, that's part of the reason why he left Washington was how all that shaped out. But, he's been on both sides of it now. And, look, Kirk Cousins is the ultimate team player. I'm sure he's trying to help Michael Penix out and understands the business of the game. I think it's also a little bit easier to help him out when you got a guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you know what? Okay, this kind of stinks, but guess what? There's still gonna be plenty of presents under the tree.
Also, after watching Quarterback on Netflix with Kirk Cousins, I mean, I've always been a fan, and I've always thought he was, a guy that's easy to root for. But after watching that and seeing behind the curtain of just like who he is as a person and as a teammate and how he relates to others, it's like, of course, he's so easy to root for, and of course, I feel like he's the type of guy that's easy to imagine him just graciously embracing Penix and helping him through this transition of like, okay, now it's your turn.
Yeah. I mean, I think we saw that kind of go down with Eli here and Daniel Jones. And hey, look, whatever I could do to help the team win. Play scout team. I want to be in the quarterback meeting room. The Daniel Jones situation was different because of the injury guarantee. So he was not afforded that chance.
Right.
So that he actually came in and said, I want to do all this stuff. Daniel Jones was not afforded that. I'm sure Kirk Cousins knows, look, he's one play away from going to the game too.
Right.
So like everybody, let's not think Kirk Cousins is done. They're not putting him on IR. He's going to be standing there with the earpiece, listening to the plays, because he's one play away from going in and having to try to win a game for Atlanta too. So there's that part of it. But yeah, no doubt, like we mentioned, the financial aspect of it, that he's kind of set a new benchmark in the NFL when it comes to the business side of the game.
Kirk
3
Cousins.
years guaranteed when he was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
3 years guaranteed now here in Atlanta. He was the first player in the history of the NFL to get a fully guaranteed contract the first time.
Right.
He's the first player to have 2.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of minivans.
Yeah.
A lot of conversion vans in the Cousins' future.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
And Applebee's.
Giants fans, take your fandom to the next level with season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are available. To learn more about the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we head back to the phone lines, long time no hear from Charlie in Maine. Charlie, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Sean and Madeline.
Hey, Madeline. Hey, Shawnee O'Hara. I hope you get a lot of Lucky Charms for Christmas.
Oh, they're always after me, Lucky Charms. I usually eat Lucky Charms with a pint of Guinness instead of the milk. Just put some Guinness in there.
Exactly.
Cilantro. That's how it's done.
Hey, look, this is going to be some karma, I think, for the Giants. Mr. Shane had an opportunity to take Mr. Penix at 6, and he said, nah, he's not good enough. I'll stick with Daniel Jones because I think he's better. And Daniel Jones is bye-bye, and now Penix is playing us.
Well, do you remember how shocked everyone was when Atlanta took Penix at 8, though?
I wasn't shocked. I thought he was going to go in the top 10.
Yeah, the shock too was because they had just signed Kirk Cousins.
Right.
It's a valid point looking back on it now. Like, hey, should we have taken this guy? Here was the thing about Penix. He's had 2 ACL injuries. And I think that was a hard sell for a lot of teams. For Atlanta, it was kind of like, hey, we've got a quarterback right now. Like, it was kind of like they were playing with house money with that pick. But look, Penix was a stud. I mean, he almost won a national championship with guys that I don't think anybody even, were not household names. So he definitely elevated people around him. The other challenge with the Giants is, even if you took Penix at 6, like, who was he throwing to?
Right.
So, Giants were not a quarterback fix away from being a great team in this last year's draft. So they took Neighbors because, look, we've got to have somebody to throw it to. We need people to score points. The Giants have had a points problem for the last couple of years. They cannot score points. Still do. Yes, it's past and present. And that draft pick was, we need somebody that can help us score points. Who gives us the best opportunity? I think Neighbors was that was your mindset. And as we have all seen now, with the footage coming out of Hard Knocks, how are we going to attack this season? Daniel Jones is our quarterback. Let's build around him. Let's give us the best opportunity to score points with Daniel Jones. And that's why the Neighbors pick happened. If there was a different thought process, and look, we had to move away from that. Even if you get Penix, now you still got to get some other guys and add some guys. So, I don't know that it's apples to apples comparison, but I do think Atlanta, and we'll see. 5 years from now, we'll look back on this and say, dude, Atlanta got a steal, with the 8th pick overall. But I also know that the knee injuries, and there was also a shoulder injury on Penix. Those were things that really were red flags for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Daniel Jones also had 2 neck injuries and an ACL. It didn't seem to bother them. So figure that out.
Well, that happened in the NFL after he was drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But at least he got injured before he came to the Giants. I mean, we've had guys come to the Giants and never been injured in their life, and they end up being injured with us. It seems to be that way. But anyway, all I know is that, I look at this year, this could be the greatest year for the New York Giants. And this is the reasons why. It's not about the record. It's about we could end up getting finally a real franchise quarterback. We can lose out, be the first pick or the second. We could get a guy that is going to take us to a couple of Super Bowls like Eli did, And so this could end up being like a really great year for the New York Giants history. 100 years. We finally get our franchise quarterback. Daniel Jones set us back almost 10 years. And now we got our guy, and we end up winning Super Bowls. We can all look back at this year, even though it's been so bad record-wise, but we can look back and say, you know what? This changed our whole franchise. So that's what I hope to see. And I don't know if Dable and Shane are going to be here or not. I don't think they should. But if they are, then they better take care of the new quarterback. And I think Dable could work with a new quarterback. But I don't think they're going to be here. I think there's too many planes going over MetLife for this to continue. But we'll see. Hey, John, say hello to Eli for me. You know, he did name his son after me, Charlie. I just want you guys to know that. So
I was wondering where that came from.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, guys. Look, have a great holiday, Merry Christmas, and everything. Because I'm sure you're not going to be on Wednesday. So all the best to you and your family.
Thanks, Charlie. Same to you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I love it, Charlie. Good stuff. Happy holidays to you as well. Yeah, we will not be here next Wednesday.
Nope. We'll be here Tuesday.
Great
though.
opportunity for the the change right there. Yeah, so we'll do a Christmas Eve edition.
Yes.
Not a Christmas Day. Hopefully we'll all be Netflixing and chilling with the two games on Christmas Day. It'll be weird, football on a Wednesday. Yeah, Charlie, look, not a whole lot to add to that. I mean, that's all. We have the whole offseason to talk about what the Giants are going to do once we figure out when they actually have that pick. But the Giants have never drafted number one overall in the Super Bowl era. The last time they had that was 1965.
Right.
So almost 60 years ago. A lot of people kind of confused. Eli Manning was the number one overall pick to the Chargers,
but
and then the Giants traded.
That year, yeah.
So yes, they have a number one pick, but it wasn't their pick to choose. So that, I mean, if that does come to fruition, I will also just say this. Think about how many number one overall picks or even number two overall picks have happened in the NFL over the last 10 years. How many of them have had the kind of career that Eli had, since you're comparing him to that? I mean, Bryce Young down in Carolina went number one. He's struggling. He got benched last year.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud had a remarkable first year, and then now things are kind of struggling. Baker Mayfield's on his fifth team down in Tampa Bay. He was a number one overall pick. You can go down the list and just kind of see, Sam Darnold was a second overall pick, third overall pick. You kind of look at, it's not just
Zach Wilson though with the Jets.
Right,
second.
Zach was second overall pick. It's not just, hey, let's get a guy, and every year is different. Like this year there was a lot of quarterbacks that could have gone that route. Like Jared Goff goes 1 overall, Carson Wentz goes 2 overall. You kind of look at the draft, each one's different. So you got to draft the right guy, but you also have to build around him, and you've got to help him progress. So it's not just, it's all encompassing. I think do I think Brian Dable can do it and Joe Shane can do it? Yeah, I do. It's tough. It's tough. And I get it when the optics are bad and when you have planes flying around with messages. To me, I look at those as, that doesn't mean you have to fire people, but what it does show is the passion and the fan base voicing their displeasure, which is okay. Like, I understand it. It's not ideal. Nobody wants to be in that position, but you have to look at that and say, all right, are we doing everything we can to make this team better? And sometimes the hardest decisions are to stay the course.
Right.
When everybody's saying you got to abandon ship.
It's a messy home renovation.
Sloppy, very sloppy. Oh, we're going kitchen.
We're
doing the kitchen. Here
kitchen renovation. Just bringing back the analogy.
Yeah, do you want to throw the foreman out halfway through the job and then bring in somebody else who's going to be like, why are you doing it that way? I wouldn't do it that way. We got to rip it all back. We're starting back over.
It's like, well, I wasn't going to go that. Rip it all out and start over again. Now a 6-month job turns into a...
So wait a minute. Who's paying for all that marble that you're ripping out now? I have to pay for that too now?
So, details. Yeah, it's messy, but someone's got to do it. And
a lot of dust.
A lot of dust, but eventually it'll settle. Giants fans, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. James in California. James, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Sean and Madeline.
Hey, guys. Speaking of analogies, Sean, earlier in the season, you made an analogy when you were out with Schmelk about quarterback play and Cole Trickle. Do you remember that?
Let me out of the car. Yeah, Cole Trickle back in the driver's seat after the accident.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Exactly. That was it. And my complaint was that it was such a brilliant reference. Schmelk said nothing. So I'm not sure if he didn't get it or if he was looking something up on his computer, but literally you said it and it was crickets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I appreciate you, James, for catching up on that. You know, sometimes Schmelk, he doesn't speak, I'm bilingual. I speak English and movie. Mm-hmm. That's like my second language. So sometimes, you know, it just kind of flies over the head. But, you know, he doesn't get a lot of sleep either. So I'll stick up for my guy Schmelk. But, yeah, it's not the first time that I've dropped a movie line on Schmelk, and it's straight crickets. So thank you.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because the thing is, if Madeline was on, dude, she would have stopped the show and given it all the attention.
We would have had some back and forth, right? There would have been a couple of other ones.
A little bit. Well, thank you for the credit. Thank you.
Big time. Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, because Madeline, real quick, because what Sean was saying is, I don't know if you remember this, but great quarterback play, they have to anticipate and throw to a spot, right, and just trust that the receiver will be there. And that's what Cole Trickle had to learn when he had to drive through the smoke.
Yeah.
Right? He just had to trust.
I believe it in my heart, Cole. You can drive through that.
You can drive.
What makes you so confident? Well, we put a special set of tires on there. What was so special about them, Harry? Well, nothing, but you were just being such a candy ass. I had to say something to calm you down.
Exactly. And then, Sean, I just wanted to follow up with you, too, because, have you ever seen a race car driver that had as perfect hair as Cole Trickle?
Never. No.
No, because even when he takes his helmet off, somehow it's perfect.
Yeah. No, most of them are probably losing their hair because they're always wearing that helmet. But it's like the thing that I think people don't really understand about race car, and I've kind of learned this just through osmosis and hearing about it. Like, what do you think they're doing when they have 500 laps and they have to pee?
Oh, I think they just go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so when they get out of the car, nobody wants to go hug them. They're
pant
sweaty.
leg full of,
There is no air conditioning in those cars. So if it's a hot day, not only are you relieving yourself, but now you're sitting in it and it's hot. So you're sweaty, like the hair, no doubt about it.
Not everyone's got Tom Cruise
when
hair.
Roddy and Tom Cruise and Cole Trickle were getting out of the car, there's no way that their hair would look that good. They would have been all greasy and smelly and grimy, and they some of the guys would have the black stuff around their eyes where you could see where the goggles were. The only guy that I think really probably played that right was Ricky Bobby. I think he came out kind of
shake and bake.
He looked like he had been racing.
Yeah, no, I think those are good points. And then just my last point is also in the deep south where those NASCAR races happen. What are the chances that Cole Trickle's doctor is going to be a beautiful 6-foot blonde Australian woman?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
He's just living his best life down there.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, that just goes to show, you know what? Sometimes you got to be at the right place at the right time. I think he was even he was shocked. He didn't believe it at first. He thought she was looking for something else, and as she quoted so eloquently, "That's not my specialty."
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Well, these are absolutely the days of thunder for the Giants franchise right now.
Well played. Look at you. It does feel like the engine is blowing up.
A little bit.
We're just does Drew Lock gonna just rev the RPMs and blow the hood?
Yeah.
Thanks for that, guys. In a tough season, sometimes you just got to laugh. So I appreciate you.
You got to keep your sense of humor. I will also throw one more quote out of there. So Harry, right, his pit car, his pit boss. There's a scene in there where he looks over there at his hunting dog, And they're talking about race car drivers. Some guys can just drive, right? Like, Tom Cruise or Cole Trickle was saying, you said take a pinch here, take a pinch here. I don't know what that means. Like, he didn't understand the mechanics and all the terminology of racing. He could just drive. He just knew how to drive. And Harry kind of was somebody said, see that dog over there? That's the best hunting dog money can buy. Best damn dog. I didn't teach him a damn thing. He just knew. He just understood it. He just did it. So sometimes quarterbacks are like that too. Like, you can coach him, you can teach him stuff, but there's some guys that are just like, hey, just go out there and just let him do his thing.
That's true.
It's a great analogy, man. What a reference.
Thanks so much for the call, James. Appreciate it. Appreciate the joy. We got to spark joy every once in a while.
Yeah, bring in the more movies, the better. We could do this. I mean, we could do a whole nother. We could do a whole nother show, right? Movies with Mad. Movies with Madeline.
Yeah, just the two of us going back and forth, speaking exclusively in movie quotes.
Yeah, you can only say movie lines.
Oh my gosh. And the worst part is the ones that come to mind first. I'm like, wait, can't say that on air. Can't say that on air. We gotta go. Yeah.
Car's perfect, Harry. Don't change a thing.
Don't change a thing. Don't change a thing. Cole Trickle reference on a Wednesday. That's what we're doing here on Big Blue Kickoff Live as we prepare for Giants Falcons right there. The days of thunder are absolutely upon us. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
It's one of those movies where if you happen to be like channel surfing, which I don't know if people do that now because everybody's all about the binge watching and the streaming, so you don't really channel surf. But if you're channel surfing and you come across that movie, you're like, well, I'm not going anywhere. How far into it is it? Like, how much time do I have? Because there's no way I'm not watching this.
It's like, oh, I love this scene. And next thing you know, you're just still standing, holding the remote, watching it an hour later. I think
one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie is when they both are jacked up. Like, they both got hurt. They got in the crash, right? And they're both in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And they're like, they have a meeting with the commissioner of NASCAR. And they're both in wheelchairs and they're racing each other in the wheelchair. It's like, just goes to show what Neanderthals men could be sometimes, and athletes and competitors. It's like they were competing even in wheelchairs. They were like, I'm not going to lose to him. I'm not going to let him beat me.
If it's got wheels, we're going to race it. I respect it.
Robin's racing.
201-939-4513 is the phone number as we bring it home today. I mean, I don't know. If there's a movie that you would look at and say, this is the analogy of the Giants football season.
Oh boy.
Is there one? That's a tough on the spot one.
Yeah, I feel like that this could go really sideways on us. There are a lot of movies. I think Giants fans can probably feel a little bit like Tom Hanks right now in Castaway. Yeah. Like, we're just out there right now, stranded on the island, not sure how we're going to get off this island. Yeah. There's a lot of movies that could come to that could be a metaphor for the season.
But the show must go on. At least
we'll do a list. We'll do a list.
Yeah, we'll circle back on this one.
I think what would be great. You know what? Like, everybody listening out there right now. Yeah. Like, right now, this is the holiday season. It's the holiday. It's all about lists right now, right? Yes. You have Christmas lists. You have holiday lists. You have party lists. You have obligations, calendars. Here's homework for you. We want a list. When Madeline and I are back here next Tuesday for Christmas Eve, we want people to call on and give us your best movie analogy, movie metaphor. Yes. For the Giants season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a fair homework assignment?
I think it's a great homework assignment because, number one, our consistent listeners, we know will come prepared. And when people call in, we'll ask them for it. That'll be a really interesting. That'll be your gift to us.
It'll be interesting just to see how creative you can be. Yeah. Because like the easy answer would be the replacements, right? Shane Falco. Oh, here we go. Like, it's a football movie. It could also be The Longest Yard. Like, you could go with a couple of those. Yeah. But there are also some hidden gems. So yeah. Yeah.
But you could go like a deep cut of just like a comedy of like Little Miss Sunshine. It has nothing to do with football, but it's just yeah. Sometimes you just got to stay the course, even though things don't go as planned, and put on the show.
Yeah, everything's fine.
My grandpa taught me this dance, and where's your grandpa now? In the trunk of our car.
You can't go Mission Impossible though. That one's off the table.
No, yeah, it's too obvious, too literal. All right, well, yes, we would look forward to that too next Tuesday, Christmas Eve. If you got a call, if you got a question.
That will be your present to us.
Exactly. And we're going to be preparing for this Falcons game, too. I mean, we talked a bit, to get back to the football of it, the X's and O's too. Talked a bit about the Giants offense and the Falcons offense with Michael Penix Jr., but the Giants offense going against this Falcons defense.
Yeah, what's interesting about this defense is they've got the fewest sacks in the league.
Right.
So they are struggling defensively, which should be music to Giants fans' ears and to Brian Dable's ears. They're not getting after the quarterback on a consistent basis. Now, they did have 4 sacks Monday night against Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Which, so if you think about it, they have 23 sacks on the season, and 4 of them were last night. So going into Monday night's game, they had 19 sacks on the season. So
yeah,
that's not their forte, which should behoove the Giants, especially if I mentioned before maybe Josh Azudu in left guard if Aaron Stinnie can't go, but it would probably be Kubas because Kubas came in the week before when Runyon got hurt. So that would be music to their ears. But defensively, their strength, I think, is in their backfield. Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates. Those guys are ball hawks. So you've got to be careful. If you're going to throw the ball down the middle of the field, you got to always know where those safeties are because they are lurking and they're trying to bait you into a throw. I think Jesse Bates, I believe, has 4 forced fumbles as well. So he has definitely been their playmaker on defense. And look, I think the challenge right now, as much as you want to focus on, all right, what are they doing? What are their tendencies? Right now for the Giants, it's us. This is us. Like, here's what we need to fix. Like, we cannot have mental errors. We can't beat ourselves. We've got to convert. 3rd down, 2 of 12 against Baltimore. Like, you're not going to win games. You're not going to score points if you can't stay on the field. So
yeah,
that's really the point of emphasis is let's focus on what we can do to get better and stay on the field. I thought they did a good job fixing it. It was more 3rd and short. It was 3rd and manageable. But they couldn't convert 3rd down, couldn't even convert on a 4th and 1. So those are the things that they've got to iron out.
Yeah, they got to iron them out. And as you mentioned, 4 sacks Monday night against the Raiders, but they've also had 4 games without a single sack. So if a Giants offensive line is a bit banged up or kind of piecemeal, with Drew Lock coming off of injury behind it, that's something that would be beneficial in facing this team to say, okay, you know what, we're going to have maybe a better scenario here to kind of execute some of the things that have been plaguing this offense for 16 weeks now.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. And like what's frustrating for the Giants too, just as when I would go back and kind of watch some of the film, it's amazing to me, and I don't know, maybe somebody statistically with more prowess than me could find this out, but the Giants run a ton of plays with just 2 receivers.
Right.
And problem is you're trying to help your offensive line, so you're keeping a tight end in, you're keeping a running back in, you're chipping. And what happens is you're trying to go max protection, and you basically have a 2-man route. Well, defenses, like, they have 2 safeties and 2 corners, so you're basically running 2-man routes into 4 defenders. It's not a great, it's not a great matchup. So that happens frequently, and a lot of times those end up being sacks because there's only 2 guys out for the route, and the quarterback's trying to figure out, like, nobody's open. What do I do with the ball? You're waiting for maybe one of the guys that's chipping to kind of release out so you can check it down.
Right, you got a running back chipping, and then you check it down in the, yeah.
It's as a play caller, it's tough because you're like, all right, I want to take a shot here. And if they're in coverage and you're trying to catch them in a blitz, really, is why you go max protection like that. And if you don't, like, you're like, all right, throw it away. But if you take a sack, now it's 2nd and 16. So those are the plays that are kind of haunting the Giants. And it's tough to really keep a drive going or get a drive going when you're in 2nd and 16, after a tough play like that.
Right, because how often, too, do we see, even last week, the defense showing blitz, and then you go max protect, but then they only send 3 or 4, and then next thing you know,
dropping guys out in coverage.
Dropping guys in coverage, and you've got nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to see. And when you have quarterbacks, like Boyle, like DeVito, they're not seeing everything. They're seeing part of the field. They're not seeing the whole field. So it's tough for them to accelerate that process. It's
not coming together quite as quickly just yet. But you know what? 3 more games to go this season, starting with Sunday at Atlanta, then 1 more home game against the Indianapolis Colts, and then finishing out the season in the Philadelphia and Philly. Can you believe it? 3 more games left in the season.
Yeah. 3 more opportunities. Let's go, boys.
3 more opportunities.
Let's go.
Every week is an opportunity to put your best stuff on the field, to get a win, to turn this around. And we will be here covering it all. But you know what? I don't know about you, Sean, but I think that's a wrap for today.
Deal.
Deal? Deal. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun.
Don't forget your homework assignment.
Yes. Christmas Eve, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Call in. Let us know what movie you think is the perfect analogy for this Giants season. And we'll be here to pontificate on it. And shout out to James in California for the epic callback. I feel like that was a while ago that you made that reference with Sean. And I'm like, you know what? It's a real one.
Yeah. He circled back. Appreciate you.
Circle back indeed. All right. Well, that's the show for us today. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Sean O'Hara, I'm Madeline Burke. BBK is a part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere and giants.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.